Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and this is Naveen and I'm back here to share my experience about Module 43 at Brototype. I'm a data science student at Brototype, building skills which will allow me to solve real world problems by building machine learning apps. So in this week I was learning about, I was in the last week of the MLOps in the last module of MLOps, and I really wanted to share with you my experience regarding how the week was going, what were the challenges that I had, and how did I face it, what are the solutions I found, what are the best strategies that can be adapted and deployed to make this week a lot easier, to understand the concepts quickly and to practice and master the practicals efficiently. So I will share all the experience that I had in this week so that you can benefit from this and you can build your skills at a much faster pace while also ensuring that the skills you build last long enough in your mind. That's the most important thing, right? If you just learn something and if you forget it the next day, what's the use of it? What's the sake of it? So for that, we need to practice more and more. And I will share you the strategies you need to follow. So first, I will start by telling you what were the concepts that I had to learn in this week. There were primarily three concepts. The first was about how to deploy a machine learning model into a Kubernetes cluster. In the previous module, I learned about deploying the machine learning model into a SageMaker endpoint, but in this week, it was about deploying it into Kubernetes cluster. And I really felt that it was something easy because I have already done that in the first module of MLOps where I deployed a machine learning model into a temporary Kubernetes cluster which was created in the GitHub Action runtime. So I have already had an experience there, and now when I talked with my mentor, he told me that I can either create a Kubernetes cluster locally in my laptop itself and deploy the machine learning model to that cluster along with the Helm charts to organize and manage the YAML manifests, the YAML files that are written, which specify how the Kubernetes cluster should be, how the things should be organized and built like. So that was the uh, so this is the main thing regarding the first concept which I had to cover in this week. When it comes to the next concept, which is serverless deployment of machine learning models. And this strategy is mainly used when deploying machine learning model to an endpoint where the server remains active throughout the day is not economical. Assume that you just have 10 users and maybe these 10 users are using your service, using your machine learning model for solving their problems maybe 4 or 5 times a day. So does it make sense to make the server active throughout the day? At the night, 3 a.m., no one might be using it, but still the computer is still on. It's the processor is and the memory is still holding the data and waiting for some input production data, but no one is using it, right? But so it's actually a really wasteful of money and resources. That's why to solve these problems, serverless deployment of machine learning models were introduced so that the server will be triggered to process that production data only when it hits the server, only when it hits the serverless server, so that you will be only, it will only cost you for the time that serverless server runs. If it If there are more triggers, if there are more events that happen, then it will cost you more. If there are less, then it will just cost you less. That's the main idea behind serverless deployment of machine learning models. But if you're always receiving requests from the users for working with the machine learning model, in that case, the serverless servers will stop making sense. And in that case, you will jump to the uh, a really great endpoint for a deploying machine learning model, which will stay active throughout the day, 24 into 7. So that's how it works. So we implement it mainly using AWS Lambda functions, or we have Google Cloud functions or Azure functions. So depending on the cloud provider, it varies. Anyway, I'm using AWS, and I will be going to work with using AWS Lambda function. I have not learned to implement it. Today, I will first cover the Kubernetes cluster deployment, and then I will get into the AWS Lambda. And then when it comes to the last phase, the last concept which I have to cover in this week, it is, yeah, it's about deploying a machine learning model where it is streaming real-time inference. So it means that usually when we say real-time inference, in traditional sense, it's about a REST API consistently hitting the machine learning model with requests for making predictions. But the problem is that in most of the production systems that we build, the software systems that we build, there might be a stream of logs or stream of events that are happening. So it will be very inefficient to use REST APIs for each of these independent events while a stream of events are continuously generated without any end. So in such cases, there are many limitations, and will be many problems introduced if we use APIs to take those events from the system where it is generated to the machine learning model inference service. So to solve those problems, we introduced Kafka, which is a message queue kind of thing, which is a message broker kind of thing, which will store these events and pass it on to any other downstream services. So that's the use and advantage of Kafka. So here in streaming real-time inference, we will use Kafka to work with the streaming logs or streaming events, and the machine learning model will make predictions on each of these events, which is taken from the Kafka. So I'll have to implement this thing, and I'm so excited to learn about each of these technologies because I realized that I'm becoming a person, developing my skill to solve real world problems in a production way, in the way that real machine learning engineers are working. This is the real skill that I wanted to develop, and I'm so happy to see that I'm developing that skill. Yeah, and I'm so patient to start working for my project or to build my product where I help salespeople to make their workflow a lot efficient so that they can just focus on their work of calling people rather than managing the administrative tasks of summarizing or retrieving the data about their customers. So I'm gonna make that entire workflow efficient by helping the salespeople. So I realized that the skills that I'm learning now, the knowledge I'm acquiring now is going to be greatly useful to me while while I'm solving a real problem with real significance, with a real consequence. Yeah, this is what I experienced throughout this week, and this was something I really wanted to share with you guys. I hope that you got some ideas about how my week was, what was the processes that I went through, how my mind works. I hope you got some understanding, and if you got some benefits from this, and if you do have some suggestions about the changes that I could bring in the video, in the way I take video, or in the way I speak, or in the way I bring the content to you, or if you want any other type of content, please comment it out so that I can know about it, so that I can be aware about it and bring more value to you. That's all. That's all I wanted to share with you guys, and I hope you you got the benefits. And if that's the case, see you again in the next week. Bye bye.